is there any sort of like, in the course of your reporting, are you picking up anything in terms of like the Democratic electorate, or is it just,
Yeah.
I mean, half the, there's like 3 states where there's not going to be a primary. It seems like, it, do you have a sense of like, as we look to the general, because I really do get the sense that like we are weeks away from everyone just looking to the general at this point.
Yeah, so national Democrats generally are their view of the result is there's a lot of voters, we were talking about this before, who are like, another choice between Trump and Biden, I guess Trump, whatever, and they're not thinking about it. And they think what will happen is once Trump clearly is the nominee, he's going to be back in the center of things, and when he's in the center of things, he's less popular. And I mean, this is issue after issue throughout his presidency and throughout the last campaign. This was the case. If Trump was the focus of things, the things got less popular. The border wall, like abortion policy, foreign policy, everything. And he's also, like we were saying, more erratic and given to just going on weird tangents. One that they focused on last night is he starts talking about his wife attending Rosalind Carter's funeral, and then says, "Oh, Jimmy Carter's the happiest person because just Biden makes him look good." That's a weird thing to say. So he was going to keep saying weird things. Democrats in New Hampshire, remember, the party descheduled the primary. You're not going to get delegates. Biden's not in the ballot. There's a write-in effort to convince people to just write in the president's name so that their Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson don't get any bragging rights or even any delegates. And so there are, I talked to some today, there's Democrats who are trying to convince people come in and vote for Haley as a spoiler to slow down Trump and to give us a chance of not having to run against him. That's kind of where the local Democrats see this is, okay, Haley didn't do quite well enough where she's coming in with a ton of momentum, but we're still going to try, not all the Democrats, but these guys who work, Primary Pivot is the group. These people saying, all right, if you're a New Hampshire Democrat or unaffiliated voter who votes for Democrats, you have a shot, do this. Chris Christie was doing this before the registration deadline, urging Democrats to switch the registration, go independent or Republican, so you could vote for him to slow Trump down. That's how locally they're thinking about it. Nationally, the sense is, no, this is over. We need to get to the point where voters see Donald Trump, the 2024 version, in the news every day, right, and realize they don't want him.
Interesting. All right, one last question, and this is about Capitol Hill. You touched on this a little bit the other day in your Semaphor newsletter. The Republicans are sort of one by one losing their majority in the House with resignations and whatnot. They don't seem, also, it seems that Johnson now is like, the whole strategy is going to be, we're not going to pass any immigration bill whatsoever, even as much as the Democrats are sort of like compromising on it. Where does this leave it? Like, I mean, the Democrats sort of like, this is sort of almost like, it reminds me of when Obama tried to, cut Social Security, and the Freedom Caucus back in 2010 wouldn't say yes. And so the Democrats couldn't come out and campaign, they're going to cut Social Security, because it was the Democrats who were willing to offer it. And yet, so this is, what's going to happen when the Republicans just use immigration as a bludgeon on Biden, but Biden doesn't want to come out and actually defend immigrants in any way?
Oh, yes. So there's a few issues like this. This is the big one, though. I would say energy policy is the same, where the Biden administration's slowly moving towards a policy that might make that eliminate some of the political problems they see, except it doesn't, because Republicans don't give them credit and Democrats don't like it. And this is one of them. The Republican approach, I hate using they, but I can say a common line you heard from Republicans, Kevin McCarthy would say this, is Democrats want the issue, they don't want a solution. They want the issue of immigration because they can use it against us, and because yada yada, great replacement theory. Side note, that was probably the most memorable thing I saw in Iowa was Vivek Ramaswamy was late to an event, and Steve King, who had endorsed him, just vamped by talking about the great replacement theory for 8 minutes.
Oh my
but that's how they talk about this and they really are, I think, running down the clock. The expectation from them is in a year and 4 days, Donald Trump is going to be president again. Why should we agree to anything until Donald Trump is president? Why would you take a deal with Joe Biden that you can throw out and say, all right, no deal whatsoever? You saw Stephen Miller, who expects to be back in a Trump administration, saying deportations begin at noon on Inauguration Day. So this is mitigating against any deal, is the sense that Republicans have that we can make this is a loser for Biden every day. That there's footage of people in New York, migrants living in hotels. We can talk about it. It came up a lot in the trail. I mean, immigration was a top issue in the exit poll, but also every candidate was saying, look at these reports of migrants living in schools in New York. The issue is just great for them. And one, they don't want any compromises that Biden would offer in terms of a path to citizenship. Every Republican in this race, even Nikki Haley, who we just started talking about trying to appeal to Democrats, their position is deport everybody who's here illegally. So if their starting position is deport everybody, and they think they're going to win the election, the cost to them is 11 plus months of people moving into crossing the border and getting asylum, who they can then deport. And
right.
Is that ideal? Well, no, but it seems like it mostly is making life hell for Eric Adams and for Brandon Johnson and for Karen Bass. So if you are in a cynical mind set, which I usually am, that's the incentives. What would be good for Republicans if there's a deal on immigration and border crossings decrease, asylum seekers decrease, and Biden says, look, I fixed the problem. Well, that's not good for them. And that's right. How I see this issue. I do see it as driven through the presidential campaign, but they're pretty clear on that. Just like if the worst things are for Biden, no matter what the human cost is, the better they are for us. Yeah.
And I imagine when you're dealing with the Republican electorate, it's people who are not as engaged in this as maybe you would if you were in a Democratic primaries. But is Biden's support, like complete unmitigated support for Israel, and what people are seeing in Gaza, are people talking about that in the Republican primary at all? Are you hearing stuff from like non-Republicans as you go around reporting?
No, it didn't really. The most that came up with Republicans is the Trump argument, which is if he was still president, Israel would be fine, never would have been attacked. And it just kind of folds into, they don't even praise Biden for doing things that they agree with. They say, yeah, but things are worse than they wouldn't have been if he wasn't there. And he does get I'm not saying he should get credit from Democrats. I'm saying he does, but he doesn't get any. I think he gets the DMFI, AIPAC, et cetera, Democrats who have worked to beat people they disagree with. They like his policy. They're not running ads against him, but you see in all the polling, younger voters don't like the way that Biden's handling this. And I've seen, not in Iowa, I've seen Genocide Joe tags, posters in bigger cities. I've seen. Yeah. I think it has become a problem. It's not in Iowa, but in polling of Michigan, it's clearly a problem. Voters under 35, and this is if you went to college, you didn't go to college, you're white, you're black, whatever. This is like very well known.
I think it's very much an age. Yeah. People under the age 40 to 35 is across the board. Yeah. It seems to me there's just a much more sensitivity to it. You've only known Netanyahu as, like, for the most part, you've only known Israel as Benjamin Netanyahu's Israel. You've only known it as a country that is perfectly safe. Yes, there are attacks, but a country that is able to defend most attacks and effectively counterattack, destroy anyone who has attacked it, as it's done in Palestine right now. It is not. If you're a boomer, you remember Golda Meir, you remember the country almost being destroyed. That's not how young people view Israel. Not to get into a whole tangent, I have not seen a place where that would play out for Biden. Now, in New Hampshire, there are Palestinian Americans who live here, Lebanese Americans who live in the state. There is some opposition, but it's really only in Minnesota, Georgia, and Michigan where this is significant. And when you ask Democrats about it,
I asked the governor of Minnesota about that a few weeks ago. They just think, yes, we'll get to a point where Trump is the alternative, and if young people see the Trump-Biden choice, at best they will vote for Biden reluctantly. At worst, they're going to stay home or vote for Cornel West. And they're just not really processing, okay, we need to change direction because we're going to lose votes on this. Not so far what I've seen.
Dave Weigel, always a pleasure to talk to you. Honestly, having followed your reporting for at least a decade now, I think nobody has a sense of what's happening out there like you do. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for letting me go on and try to explain it. I tried
it's really great.
All my rambles to have facts in them. No, so thank you.
Really great. Enjoy all your travails across New Hampshire today.
Yes. We're in a snowing, but it's not sub-zero, so I can handle this. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, I hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks again, Dave Weigel, and we'll put a link to your page at Semaphor, folks. Yeah. A great way to get a sense of what's going on out there. Thanks again.